Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dada. Well, we've got a little bit of everything here today. We got some minor non-Packers news, some minor Packers news, a little bit more drama. Got a bunch more interviews. We got the Minnesota Vikings. Matt LaFleur was on with Chris Sims. I don't know how much of this we're going to get to, but we're going to start grabbing, and we'll see how she goes. First of all, in regard to the old tush push, Adam Schefter has his own podcast. On the podcast, he had mentioned that he believes that by next year, the tush push will be banned. Schefter didn't cite any sources directly, but reiterated the point later in his latest episode of the Adam Schefter podcast, saying he wouldn't be surprised if the owners voted to outlaw the play. I have to wonder, I don't know if the Eagles or anybody else agrees with Schefter's sentiment that this is likely to be banned, but you got to wonder if that puts some emphasis on the Eagles to revise their play a little bit, you know? Some minor Packers news. Former UW football quarterback Will Rogers worked out for the Packers this morning. That's Washington, not Wisconsin. Will Rogers got a pretty decent build as far as a quarterback is concerned. Kind of has an unusual path, but makes sense as somebody that you would try it out. He was the Mississippi State quarterback for 4 years. Looks like he suffered some serious injury setbacks. So he had a really good sophomore season. It was his first starting season. Had an 88 grade, 4,700 yards, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 90 passing grade. Another decent year with similar stats the next year. Lesser completion percentage in yards, but touchdowns, interceptions were similar. 2023 he gets hurt. Then 2024 he transfers to Washington. Looks like he potentially got hurt again and really struggled down the stretch starting around week 7, potentially due to injury, I'm not sure, but makes sense for somebody you'd want to get in early on in his career, looking really, really talented. But that was just a tryout. The Packers actually did end up signing Jadon Janke. He's a 6'3", 210-pound wide receiver out of South Dakota State. He actually had things going in the correct direction. Didn't really start playing until 2020, his sophomore season. Went from a 64 to a 66 in his second season, from a 66 to a 78 in his third, and then from a 78 to a 90 in his fourth year starting, fifth season. 91 receiving grade, 91 drop grade. Only dropped one pass, which is 1.6%. He is 25 years old, which is one of the negatives, as well as being at a smaller school, but absolutely broke out this past year. He's kind of been a big slot, it looks like. At least that's how they've used him. He's played 61% of his snaps from the slot. He earned all Missouri Valley Football Conference second-team honors as a return specialist in 2022. It was the only year he did that, which is kind of weird. 2019, 20, 2021, and 2023. Actually, that's not true. 2021 and 2022, he did kick returns. 2022, he did punt returns. But 3 of those years, I guess 2, he didn't do anything, including his final year. As for his kick return ability, 21.3 yards per attempt. His punt return ability was 10.7 yards per attempt. I would assume if they wanted to try him, considering his size, he'd be more of a kick returner than a punt returner. That's just a guess. I don't know. That's what he did more of at South Dakota State. He didn't grade out as well, but it's worth looking into, I suppose. He also did not muff any kickoff returns. He muffed 3 punt returns, though, out of 15. Oh, my goodness. Maybe we just try him as a receiver and see how that goes. Let's see. He was actually in 2024 was his draft year. He went undrafted, went with the Houston Texans alongside his twin brother Jackson Janke. That's interesting. He was released during training camp. I'm looking at his PFF stuff. Doesn't look like he took a single... wait a minute. Looking at the wrong thing here. Preseason. I lied. He did play in the Week 3 preseason game. It looks like he's been a slot in the NFL, too. So with the Texans, he actually was in the Hall of Fame game against Chicago. got a 57 grade, 0 targets, just 2 routes run, so they didn't give him a lot of opportunities. Then week 1 in the preseason, he went up against Pittsburgh, again, mostly a slot guy, ran 5 routes, 0 targets, 45 grade. He got cut. Week 3, he was in Miami, played Miami against Tampa, ran 9 routes from the slot, had 1 target, 1 reception for 6 yards. So there you go. There's his preseason NFL stats. 1 target, 1 reception, 6 yards, 53.5 receiving grade. 0.38 yards per route run. So we'll see what that does. As for the remaining drama, this is one of the dumber things that I've seen. Everybody, especially supposedly over on Reddit, was losing their mind. Rob Demovsky reported that Green Bay Packers offensive guard Sean Rhyan missed out on $2 million, and he missed it by only 2 snaps. In other words, there was a set amount. If you reach this amount of snaps, you get a $2 million bump. Missed it by 2 snaps. Everybody was like, the Packers are the worst, or how could you do that? The thing I hate about that crap is you have to actually look into the details. What did they do wrong? Why didn't they give him the money? Well, because they can't just give him the money. They don't have the ability or the authority to say, you were close enough, here's $2 million, which even if they could, do you think that that's what they should do all the time? Just be like, here's $2 million. Knock yourself out, kid. But no, they didn't have the ability to do that. Well, why didn't they just give him 2 more snaps? When? Should they have talked to the ref at the end of the game and said, hey, can we extend this by 2 plays? My boy over here needs 2 additional snaps. What are you talking about? Why do we always have to jump to, this evil organization, the evil Bro, it's just an interesting, dang, that's crazy, man. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's like somebody almost winning the lottery but was off by, a number. 54, 21, 64, 12, and then 13. That last number I had 12. Otherwise, I would have won $1 billion. That's crazy. And that's really, it's like, man, that's horrible. That's the worst thing ever. It's so bad. I think you actually win a bunch of money, but let's forget about that. Oh, no. But we don't need to go down my gas station ripped me off. They're withholding a number because they're evil enterprise from hell. Stupid. But what was meant to be, I think, just kind of an interesting little tidbit by Rob Demovsky turned into a frickin' lynch mob. Another fun little ditty here. This via TMJ4 News. Rick Alstad reached out to TMJ4 after the Green Bay Packers took away his family's season tickets. Quote, the Packers are in my blood, Rick told TMJ4. He says he hadn't been to a game for 4 years. His parents had gotten sick, his father with prostate cancer and his mother with dementia issues. Both have passed away in recent years. He now lives in Nevada, and so his family sold tickets on Ticketmaster. Look, man, first of all, as we've already talked about, I am absolutely in favor of the Packers taking tickets away from people who are not going to games and are selling them to our rivals. It's the reason why we see home games filled with blue and purple all the time. It's because people like this are selling their tickets. Now, could certainly look at it and say, yeah, but this is an extenuating circumstance and it's so sad and all that. Look, I'm very sorry. This is a privilege. If you're not going to use it, you're going to lose it. Everybody's got a sob story. I'm sure everybody that has these tickets that got passed down from their parents, their grandparents, whatever, the ones that live out of state, they just don't have the money, they don't have the resources, they don't have the time. I'm sure if you lived right next door to the stadium, you'd walk over there and go to games. You just can't right now. It's just not the best time. All these things, right? How many sob stories do you think there are? Probably most of the tickets being sold. I wish I could make it, but I gotta work. I gotta do this. Fine. But you're not getting the season tickets then. If you, as a Packer fan, are not going to use them and are going to insist on selling them to rivals, you don't get them anymore. And so by confiscating these tickets, obviously the Packers will then open up another spot, which is the other beautiful side of this. Well, I wish I could, I just can't, I live far away. Okay, we're going to take it away, and we're going to open it up to somebody else. This somebody else will more than likely be much more willing and able to go to the games. If they can't, then we're just going to take those away, and we'll keep on moving down the line until we start filling the seats with Packer fans again. This has been far too long. People have been being way too comfortable saying, no big deal, I'll just sell the tickets. I'm sure you fell on hard times. I'm also sure you could have hopped on a plane if you really wanted to. And if you couldn't do it financially, then you can't do it financially. You know what I mean? If it's too much for you to hop on a plane, it would be for me, certainly, to go to these games, then maybe this isn't the right fit for you. I understand it sucks. There's a long line. You got it. You're a huge Packer fan. Cool. But having these tickets is probably not the thing that you need in your life. You're not a great candidate. This isn't really for you. The fact that it's been 4 years and you haven't been to a single game, you have sold every single ticket for 4 years. There's never been a time when there wasn't some horrifying circumstance where you were directly caring for your parents and couldn't be away from them. Not one time in 4 years. Because it sounds to me like maybe that's sort of the excuse, and really there were opportunities, and you figured, I'll just sell it. And something tells me if the Packers hadn't taken that away from you, you would have continued doing that forever. Maybe going to a game here or there, once every couple years I'll catch a game if it piques my interest. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and rake in the dough selling these tickets. And this guy decides to go to TMJ4 and call in and complain about the Packers, who stole my tickets that I haven't used in 4 years, as I've been pumping Lambeau Field full of Bears and Vikings and Lions fans and every other kind of fan, as I've been pumping Lambeau Field full of them. I'm going to call in and tell people that I haven't used these tickets in 4 years and complain about the Green Bay Packers as though they did something wrong. I'm very sorry you're going through a hard time. A lot of people are. If this is not a good fit for you, you should have just turned them in. But instead, you flip these around on Ticketmaster. Did you try to even find Packer fans? No, just a quick flip on Ticketmaster. Why not? By the way, that is currently the policy of the Green Bay Packers, is to revoke tickets from holders who have sold 100% of their seats over multiple years. Not 95%, not 90%, 100%. All he had to do to not get his tickets taken away at this current point is to go to one game in that time span. One. He's been watching the Packers for 50 years. His parents bought season tickets before 1994 when the team moved their 2 annual Milwaukee County Stadium games to Lambeau. He also mentioned, by the way, we're all fans, right? 50 years, however many years, we're all fans. Congratulations. I don't want to hammer on this too much because obviously it's terrible about his parents. Very sorry about that. It says his parents have both passed away in recent years. Years? Which years? You mean they passed away this past winter? This last month? 2 months ago? February of this year? What do you mean years? Because if it was 2 years ago, I don't know what that has anything to do with you not going to a single game this past year. Except again, as bad as I'm sitting here feeling about, oh man, I shouldn't talk about his parents, you called in and used your parents who died as an excuse for why you haven't been to games and why the Packers are the bad guys. That's kind of crazy and a little messed up. But I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. No big deal. All right, let's take our first break, and we'll see what we do next. Tell you what, why don't we do the Minnesota Vikings? Let's get that going, because it's I don't want it to get to be a week since we did this little overview. We did already the Bears and the Lions. Vikings are the only ones remaining. So the 2024 Minnesota Vikings shockingly went 14-3. I think if you would have said, are they going to go 3-14 or 14-3, everybody would have lost thousands of dollars betting on 3-14. They went on a 5-game losing streak and then lost 2 after their bye to the Lions and Rams. Then went on a, 10-game win streak here, 9-game, and then lost back-to-back Lions and then Rams in the postseason. Actually kind of hilarious. I didn't realize that. They lost 2 games to the Lions and Rams and then lost 2 games to the Lions and Rams. In not so inspiring fashion, their season ended scoring 9-9. They scored 18 points their last 2 games. Probably made the whole should we switch quarterback thing pretty easy to come to that conclusion. On the roster right now, obviously the biggest one, J.J. McCarthy, is their quarterback, first-round pick, 2024. They've also got Sam Howell, who they acquired via trade from Seattle. They got Brett Ripien, and then added Max Brosmer to the room. Running back, they still have Aaron Jones Sr. Probably going to need to make some additions there in the near future. Aaron Jones obviously going to be on the way out very soon. They have Jordan Mason, Ty Chandler, Xavier Scott, and then added Trey Stewart this year. So unless some of these guys end up popping off, they also have fullback C.J. Ham. You can expect them to invest in the running back position. Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor. Obviously Jefferson, top guy, one of the best receivers in football. Addison, a solid number 2. They did add Ty Felton in the 3rd round this year. Certainly a familiar name for those keeping track in the draft and whatnot. They also added Rondale Moore, which is kind of interesting. Tight end, they still got T.J. Hawkinson to be their top guy. No real other major additions there. In the 6th round, they added Gavin Bartholomew and then a couple UDFAs. On the defensive side, they made some additions once again to the defensive line. Like I said, they do this every year. They went out and added 32-year-old Javon Hargrave, as well as 30-year-old Jonathan Allen. On the pass rush front, they've got, actually, they also have a 5th-round pick that they added, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. I suppose I'll mention it. At the pass rush front, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel. Van Ginkel already pushing 30 years old, so the entire defensive line here, along with Harrison Phillips, who is 29 years old, getting pretty long in the tooth. They also have 1st-round pick from last year, Dallas Turner. Did not have a very good rookie season. Obviously, they're all hoping for a big jump from him. On the inside, Ivan Pace, Blake Cashman, Eric Wilson is back. So he was with Minnesota, went to another team, came to Green Bay. We finally made the decision to allow him to go because he hit 30 years old, and the Vikings are like, hey, that's our style, and went out and picked him back up. Also in the 6th round, they added linebacker Kobe King. At corner, they made the addition of Isaiah Rodgers from Philadelphia. Otherwise, they have Mekhi Blackman, Byron Murphy. They did pick up Jeff Okudah. And then at safety, Josh Metellus. Harrison Smith is still there playing football at 36 years old. And then all the special team stuff, nobody cares. It's actually kind of interesting. When you look at what they ultimately set out to do, it's very similar to what the Bears set out to do, the Lions set out to do, and the Packers set out to do. Trenches. I didn't go over the offensive line yet, but if you look at it, this is where the major investment was. They have Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill as their tackles. They went out and got Ryan Kelly to be their center. They got Will Fries to play right guard, and then they drafted Donovan Jackson in the 1st round. Very similar to the Bears. What do they do? Free agency, they go get 3 interior guys. Funny enough, what else did everybody do? Neglect secondary. Packers wanted corners, didn't get them. Lions, they invested in free agency, still need help in the secondary, didn't really do it. Vikings desperately need secondary help, they loaded up in the trenches. I think you had a pretty strong, especially offensive line group, but trenches overall. You had a strong emphasis from the NFL on building that, and I think it was a pretty weak secondary, especially corner class. There were a lot of people that I think were hyped up, many of which were overhyped. I kind of talked about it as we were going through the prospects. A lot of the corners, it's hard to wrap your head around because a lot of them are a little bit up in age and also had a ton of injury issues. But ultimately, that was the story. Everybody wants to build up in the trenches. Maybe for slightly different reasons. The Vikings need to help their quarterback. Bears want to run the ball. Packers just want to bolster the trenches in general. Whatever the reason. Lions have always kind of been that team. But everybody seemed to go into this draft saying we need to be better in the trenches. But Vikings did not have a lot to work with. Obviously, it was a weak free agent class. They had their 1st-round pick in Donovan Jackson. 3rd-round pick, wide receiver Ty Felton. 5th-round pick, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. And then 2 6th-round picks, Kobe King, the linebacker, and Gavin Bartholomew, the tight end. So, we'll see with the Vikings, man. generally just don't like the way that they go about things. I had said for many, many years that they need to start purging the players. They keep holding on to them. They finally seemed to do it, but somehow they did not get any younger. They're just still an old team that builds through free agency, and by build, I mean rent. There's obviously some things that they're doing. I mean, they're drafting some people. Donovan Jackson is now on the team, and Dallas Turner is now on the team, but so far these guys are not good. Well, Dallas Turner's not a good football player. I mean, we're already getting to the point where Justin Jefferson's 26, which is not old, but how much longer are we going to keep just dragging this along? I mean, if it takes by, let's say, next year or the year after is when the Vikings really hit their stride, let's say 2027 with J.J. McCarthy. Justin Jefferson's 28. Aaron Jones is long gone. T.J. Hawkinson's pushing 30. Now would have been a great time to start building up a young core around him, but here we are. No draft picks and a bunch of 30-year-old rentals. Since the schedule came out, we might as well take a quick peek at it. They got a pretty solid week 1 with the Chicago Bears. I say solid because I'll be excited about it. So you got Packers-Lions, but then you also got Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings. And that's actually Monday night, so that's fantastic. So even if the Packers end up losing to the Lions, we get to watch one of these teams kick the crap out of the other, and I don't really know that I care which one's which. I mean, if the Bears win, it's like, oh crap, the Bears are off to a decent start here. However, the Vikings, after the season they had going 0-1 with J.J. McCarthy falling to 0-1, not going to be mad about it. If the Vikings come out and beat the living crap out of the Bears, you know I am not going to be mad about that. Then the Vikings have the Atlanta Falcons, which should not be a super tough challenge, so they may start 2-0 here, depending on that is in Chicago. And they're home against Atlanta. They should at least be 1-1. Cincinnati Bengals week 3. Like I said, you want to get the Bengals or the Ravens later in the season if you can, because injuries are a problem for their quarterbacks. Catching Joe Burrow week 3 when he's actually going to be healthy is not super great luck. However, that is another home game, so that works to their advantage. Week 4, Pittsburgh. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers is a part of that. It's in Pittsburgh. That could end up being a little bit of a tough challenge. Week 5 at Cleveland should not be super challenging. Week 6 is their bye, so they also have a very early bye. They're somewhat fortunate, though, that they catch the Eagles week 7, so they do get a ton of extra time to prep for the Eagles. That's also going to be at home. So as far as the Eagles game goes, you can't catch a much easier one than that at home after the bye. After that, they're on the road against the Chargers, on the road against Detroit, and then Baltimore. So that's a tough stretch. I mean, even with the bye week and everything, good chance that Eagles game is a loss. At Chargers, depending on how good the Vikings are, that's potentially a loss. At Detroit is probably a loss. Baltimore, that's at home, but still, that could be a 4-game losing streak. Again, unless they're a super hot team again. But if they're what you would expect, a team with a rookie quarterback and whatnot, that's going to be tough getting through that gauntlet. Then you're back home at Chicago, back home against Chicago. And then on the road, Green Bay, on the road, Seattle, and then at home, Washington, on the road against Dallas, on the road against the Giants, back home against Detroit, and then back home against Green Bay. So, I mean, if you're a Vikings fan, you have to assume probably not going to win 14 games again. Could. Anything's possible. Vikings are a very weird team. They always do the unexpected. But, I mean, that's a tough ask. I mean, you could pull off certainly go 2-0, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 before your bye is certainly doable. Then you got that real tough stretch there. If you can go 2-2, 6-3, 7-3 after the Bears, say you split with the Packers, I guess. 8-4, beat Seattle 9-4. Beat Dallas and the Giants 10-11. Detroit and Washington, if you can split, that could be 12. I mean, we're talking best case scenario. Obviously could be a lot worse than that. You could, lose to the Bears, lose to the Bengals, lose to the Steelers, lose to the Eagles, Chargers, Lions, Ravens, potentially lose to the Bears, Packers. Seahawks, I'm not really sure. I'd have to look at what they're doing these days. Washington could easily be a loss. Dallas could be a loss. Detroit and Green Bay again. I mean, there's very losable games here for the Vikings. And that's, I mean, similar to the Packers. It's like everybody else. Depending on where you are, this is a tough enough schedule to, you could walk away with 5 wins or 15 wins, depending on how good your team is. But that's one of the things that's going to be really fun to keep track of this offseason. Obviously, the Packers are number one, but I'm going to be real interested in the Minnesota Vikings. It's going to be tough because the media always puts a positive spin on things. Like, I'm going to be interested in Caleb Williams, but I already know the Bears media is going to be just absolutely gushing over everything. I'm not as certain about the Vikings media, to be honest, as far as how they handle that stuff, but I know Bears media is just kind of a joke. They are just going to be convulsing with every completion, although they also think they're slick and they're going to really quietly talk about the interceptions, and I will be keeping track of every single one of those, so I'm just saying. All right, I think that's good enough for now for the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of questions, primarily the quarterback, but even outside of that, man, a lot of questions. So we'll see how that materializes. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Via Arimirov. Significant. NFL owners will vote next week on a proposal to change the playoff seeding format where teams would be seeded strictly by regular season record rather than automatically awarding the top 4 seeds to division winners. I do like that. If teams have more detail, if teams have the same record, a division title would serve as the first tiebreaker, not head-to-head. That's also very, very fair. After the first round, teams would be reseeded, so the number 1 seed always plays the lowest remaining seed. The NFL wants to increase late season competitiveness and excitement and reduce teams resting starters weeks 17 and 18. I think that's exactly right. I mean, we talked about this before. The whole divisional thing, it matters, and it should matter, but it shouldn't matter as much as it does. Having 9-win teams as like the number 4 seed, and then having 13-win teams as the 5 and 10. I mean, that's so stupid. And I think last year really exacerbated that with the Packers and Vikings in particular being behind a bunch of other teams that they shouldn't have been. Actually, the Vikings weren't, right? The Vikings, or no, they were, because the Eagles had the number 1 seed, I think. Either way, I would be absolutely in favor of this. I think it needs to change. I think it should just be across the board the better teams. Let's see, let me take a look at last year's. Right. Detroit had the number 1. So it would have been Detroit, then Philly, then Minnesota as the 3. The Packers would have been the 4 seed, which is hilarious that 3 out of 4 would have been NFC North, but we would have had the 4 seed. And so then the other teams were Rams, Commanders, Buccaneers. However, it looks like it probably would have been Commanders. Oh, no. Commanders are 12-5, so they would have had 4. We would have been the 5 seed. So the 7 seed would have been the Buccaneers instead of the Packers. And so the Eagles would have played the Buccaneers. Yeah, so Eagles, Bucks, Vikings, Rams, Commanders, Packers. And so assuming we could have gotten it done against the Commanders, the Rams did play the Vikings and beat them. So it would have been the Rams, Lions, and then Packers, Eagles. And then presumably exact same plays out from there. But we would have made it further than the Vikings, doggone it. Again, that's assuming we beat the Commanders. But anyways, I am 100,000% in favor of this. And then the funniest thing to happen over the last 24 hours or so, via ESPN, Seth Wickersham reports Caleb Williams considered forcing a pre-draft trade from the Bears before ultimately deciding he could win in Chicago. In other words, he mulled pulling an Elway. Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die, were the words of Caleb's father, Carl, to ESPN's Seth Wickersham. Williams reportedly desired a trade to the Vikings, but he changed his mind after touring the Bears facility. I can do it for this team, Caleb reportedly told his dad. I'm going to go to the Bears. Williams acknowledged any attempt to force a trade would require going scorched earth on the Bears and the city of Chicago, a process he did not have the stomach for. There have been zero reports of Bears/Williams drama since he made his peace with the idea, even after former coach Matt Eberflus's down show 2024 mistakes. It's an interesting story, but one firmly planted in the past. Well, oh, really? Are we sure about that? First of all, I'm not so sure that there's been no issues. Have we not been paying attention to Caleb Williams' demeanor and the rebellion of the wide receivers who can't stand the frickin' guy? Should we just ignore the fact that he ended up going to Chicago, the quote-unquote place quarterbacks go to die, and they had a terrible season and Caleb looked like garbage? We're going to just pretend that everything's fine now, that he's over it, that they used to think that this was a terrible idea, but now they're really excited about it after that garbage year that they had last year. I'm sure that really changed his mind as he watches young quarterbacks go on to ascend, as he watches Jadon Daniels go on to dominate with Washington, another terrible team, take them straight to the playoffs, to watch Bo Nix ascend in Denver, to watch Drake May start to make some serious progress in New England. Yeah, I'm sure it's all just in the past now. Nothing to see here, folks. Looking at the article a little further down, it says, Caleb Williams wondered aloud to confidants, do I want to go there? I don't think I can do it with Shane Waldron. Now, he is gone. They fired him, brought in somebody else. Didn't help. Again, this is the favorite. This is the best thing. This is what Bears fans do best. Identify problems and eliminate it. Notice I didn't say fix it. I said eliminate it. Shane Waldron is not getting the job done. Fire Shane Waldron. Matt Eberflus is not getting the job done. Fire Matt Eberflus. Carl Williams, that's his dad, went to great lengths to try to circumvent the NFL draft, Wickersham writes, wanting to give his son an opportunity to choose his future employer. We knew a lot about this already. The Bears had not drafted a star quarterback since the 1980s, and their recent draft selections, Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields, didn't pan out. Carl Williams was worried that with the franchise's history, stadium uncertainty, and offensive performances under then head coach Matt Eberflus, Caleb Williams wouldn't have the organizational support to succeed. Quote, I don't want my son playing for the Bears. And Bears fans are trying to play this down. Like, well, Rodgers wanted to be a 49er. Okay, lots of players have their favorite teams, right? There are Packers, like Jaden Reed, grew up a Bears fan, right? Mitch Trubisky and Caleb Williams, interestingly enough, Packers fans, at least to some degree. That's not what we're talking about. We're not just talking about, oh boy, wouldn't it be nice to play for the hometown team? We're talking about a very public, massive story about how your franchise quarterback and his father considered doing everything they could to stay away from you because you suck so bad. This is less about, gee, it would be nice to play for the Packers because I grew up a Packer fan, and more to do with, I will play for literally... He wanted to go to the Vikings. This isn't about, oh, my favorite team. This is about, please, 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 Lord, anywhere but Chicago. Anywhere but Chicago. It's also hilarious to me that he really wanted to be a Viking. This is not about a childhood dream. This is about, I met with the coach, I met with the people there, and this seems like a really good organization. Just a big smack in the mouth to the Chicago Bears. After an up-and-down final season at USC, Caleb Williams was unsure of what he wanted to do as he prepared for the 2024 draft. At the NFL Combine that year, he met with Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell. The two hit it off, and Caleb Williams began to dream of what it would be like to play for Minnesota. I need to go to the Vikings, he told his father. Let's do it, his father replied, but both Caleb and Carl knew that a trade to a divisional rival was extremely unlikely. He hated you. All of you in your stupid city and your stupid stadium and your trash history. And he sat back and dreamed of going to your division rival, the Minnesota Vikings. Oh, to be a Viking. I would love to go there. A place that actually has a coach that knows what he's doing. Oh, but we have Ben Johnson now. Okay. whatever. Ultimately, he just decided he wasn't really ready to go to the mat and just nuke Chicago. So he just conceded and was like, screw it, let's just go to Chicago. No wonder the guy was in such a garbage mood. He's playing football and sitting on the bench, pouting, thinking, why didn't I force a trade? Goes on to talk about the dysfunction of the Chicago Bears in a little bit more light. It says, at times, Williams said he would watch film alone with no instruction or guidance from the coaches. Quote, no one tells me what to do, he told his dad. I just turn it on. I think one of the things that I'm liking about this is, you know, the Bears have always had the media run cover for them. Since Fields, they have just nonstop been the darlings, the worst darlings in the history of sports. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe that's going to turn around here a little bit. Here is Boomer Esiason talking about this recent report that came out.
When you think about this, I think a lot of these kids and their parents are nowadays, and that the level of entitlement is breathtaking. And it's no wonder why he failed initially, and it's no wonder why the coach got fired. So now they go out and get an offensive coach in Ben Johnson, and you know what? Now it's on his ass.
First of all, I don't necessarily think that's true. I hope it is. I hope the media starts to turn a little bit and actually hold him accountable. They never did for Fields. They'd fire the coach, bring in a new one. Was it on Fields? No. It wasn't Fields' fault. It was either the coach's fault, the offensive coordinator's fault, the offensive line's fault, it was always somebody else's fault. Then they go get new wide receivers. Well, it's the offensive line's fault. They get new offensive linemen. Well, it's the offensive coordinator's fault. They get rid of the offensive coordinator. It's the head coach's fault. It's always somebody else's fault. So Boomer Esiason is saying, now it's on you. We'll see. We'll see. I don't think it will be. At least not among Bears fans, and I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people in the national media, the NFL media, that are going to hold to this line of thinking that it's not going to be Caleb's fault. What do you expect him to do? Ben Johnson was never that good. He just, all he did was call fourth down plays, and he just had the team to do it. And he now that he doesn't have a team, we're seeing what kind of a real coach he can be. And you know, he's a creative play caller, big deal. He can't run an organization, and you know, he didn't go out and get a good enough offensive coordinator to help out. And you know, what did they really do at wide receiver and offensive line? They didn't do enough. They got one guy and a bunch of... They're going to start coming out with all the stuff that I say in the offseason. When things stop working, they're going to come out and agree with it because it protects their quarterback. But anyways, I hope that's true. I hope there are no more excuses. And if there is failure by the quarterback, I don't want to hear anything about the offensive line, the wide receivers, the coach, nothing.
Going to be on his ass to live up to these so-called lofty expectations that he has for himself and that his father has for his son.
By the way, that was the other thing where his dad was furious about the rookie wage scale and how it's a bunch of BS and it's not fair because he's going to be losing all this money that he would have gotten in a free market or whatever, an open market. That's not necessarily true because nobody knows what your son can do. They haven't seen him yet. Just because you think he's a superstar that should be worth $100 million. I mean, he comes into the NFL and busts, and now what? But this is unjust. So he wants his son. I mean, it was pretty wild, the level of entitlement with Caleb and his dad.
You know, and I understand, you know, that there could be a discussion. Hey, this is where quarterbacks go to die. Well, you know, go fix it. Be the reason that
right. Look at Washington. Look at Houston. Right. All it takes is a good quarterback, and all these hopeless teams that haven't been good in forever suddenly are immediately on the map. The Washington Commanders have better odds to win the Super Bowl than the Packers this year. Why? They've been such a terrible team. Oh, they went out and got a quarterback. End of story.
The team is going to turn it around and you be the player that you think you are. And I would just tell them, you know, just keep your mouth shut. You're going into the greatest league that there's ever been for the sport that we all love. You're going to have a chance one day to make $500 million because guys like me and guys before me all went on strike so you could actually make more money. So keep your pie hole shut and go out and play football and earn your keep and earn your respect.
Yeah, exactly right. They want to get paid up front. They want all the money and all the accolades. They want to go to the best teams. They want to do all these things. It's great, by the way, that Mr. Hollywood and his dad hated Chicago because of the reputation and how terrible the team is. That's glorious. It's also true that Caleb is a prissy drama queen, and he gets it from his dad. So I am desperately hoping that this thing falls apart. I think there's every reason to believe that it will. Caleb Williams has some serious flaws that a lot of times just do not translate to the NFL. The inability to read the field, to have a quick enough reaction time. If he can develop that, then yeah, he might be super scary. If he can't, I mean, this is Justin Fields all over again. And it doesn't matter if you have Ben Johnson or anybody else. It's not going to matter. There's going to be a billion sacks, a bunch of bad decisions. Just not good. Well, he doesn't throw interceptions. Yeah, because he's on his back all day, bro. I can't wait. I can't wait. Please get this season started. I want to talk so much trash. I want Caleb to throw a single pick. I want him to throw 75 touchdowns and 1 pick, and I'm just going to ride that dude. I'm going to be making fun of every Bears fan I can find. He threw a pick. I don't care if Jordan threw 17. It's going to be fun. All right, I'm getting out of here. You all have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you whenever. Bye-bye.